Hi, it's Outlaw Bookseller here. As usual, we're in Cardiff. Well, not as usual, but again, we're in Cardiff. I'm going for a walk today with my mate Swansea Mark. Of course, the weather's terrible. I've been up half the night because Smudge decided to disappear into the garden and there was a fox around. So I'm absolutely wrecked. So before we do anything, a coffee at Coffee Barker, as usual. Okay, so we're in Taffs Well. The plan today is to walk from Taffs Well to Tongwynlais to Castell Coch, the Red Castle, and then along the Taff Trail to Groeswen Halt, where I was born. It's supposed to rain like mad today, hopefully it won't. I've lost the sponge from my microphone, so if there's high winds you won't hear any of this. That happened in Cardiff, marvellous, but everything will come together. Is South Wales jinxed when it comes to me? Who can say? Okay, so we've walked up the hill through Tongwynlais. I've forgotten how nice it was, and these are the iconic red gates. Have you noticed how everything's iconic now? It's the overuse of the term. But yeah, Castle Coch, the Red Castle. We're going to go and have a look. Right, so we're ascending now to the fortress area, and I really want to show you Mark's t-shirt. Mark, let the audience see your t-shirt. Look at that, hang on. Wow, King Crimson red. Sort of fitting really, considering we're going to Castell Coch, isn't it really? So there you are, red by King Crimson, very stentorian, and to a red castle. Okay, so here we are at Castell Coch, the Red Castle. Now there was a real castle here, around about the 13th century, but it was reduced to a ruin, and then it was rebuilt in this folly type form in the 19th century by William Burgess, who was an arts and crafts movement artisan, very flamboyant characters they were. So, you know, think William Morris, Burne-Jones, all that sort of stuff. There's a connection, of course, to fantasy writing because Morris particularly was keen on Nordic things, and they were all keen on Arthurian romance and what have you. And so this was part of the renaissance of that. And Burgess built this for the third Marquess of Bute, who was at that time probably the richest man in the world due to ownership of coal mines and what have you, because of course around here, South Wales, it was all coal mines until the 70s, 80s, and we had lots of rail links leading down to Cardiff and Newport to send the steam coal, anthracite, abroad, because of course anthracite, steam coal, is the best steam coal in the world, and steam coal is what powered the Industrial Revolution. So it's off the backs of miners in South Wales. Obviously it led to global warming, but you know, it is what it is, that's history. So we'll take a look and show you inside, hopefully. Okay, so we'll try and have a look around the exterior first, and then maybe we'll go in. I find myself thinking of Richie Blackmore's Rainbow, you know, it's, what's that rainbow track with about castles, Mark? It's the castle on the cover of the first album, isn't it? I can't think what track I'm thinking of. Of course there's Kill the King, which is, you know, the average fantasy saga in 3.5 minutes, and much better than, you know, reading multiple volumes. So there we go. But yeah, look at these impressive buttresses. Imagine how much money this must have cost to, you know, to rebuild from like a ruin. Okay, now the anterior aspect. Is this the anterior or the posterior? I suspect it's the posterior, really. So let's take a little stroll up the steps here. Another opportunity to fall over on camera. Well, off camera, because it's facing away from me, so that's okay. But gives you an idea of the grounds as such. Very silver and beautiful. Little squirrel there. Marvellous. And yeah, look at that. Yeah, it's definitely the posterior aspect, isn't it? So Superb. Okay. It's a year since I've been here actually, and I think I'm actually in what would be a moat now, so I should probably rise out of this. Yeah, I am, because there's the entrance at the front is by a bridge, so I guess this should be full of water and crocodiles really, but not there's any large reptiles native to South Wales, of course, apart from me. One can almost hear the heraldic trumpets blaring. So we'll take a look inside now, I think. This makes me think of the Hawkwind song Dragons and Fables, written by Hugh Lloyd Langton. Hughie Bach, as his mum called him, or his mam I should say, because he was Welsh. Great song. And it makes us think of the deep Welsh connection to the symbolism of fantasy through the dragon. You know, what's the coolest flag in the world? The only flag that's got a dragon on it is the Welsh flag, of course. But of course it's not represented on the Union Jack because Wales is a principality. So if you want to talk about reparations, well, look at the Welsh first. We've been a subject nation for 700 years and there's no recognition of us in the Union flag because we are regarded as part of England. This should change, shouldn't it, really? We're not expecting a siege at the moment. So here we are in the courtyard. It's £8.30 to get in. And as you see, it's fantastic. I mean, I've been here many times over the years. You know, I must have been probably about 5 the first time I came because I only lived up the road. And it is a while since I've been, so it's really nice to come here again. Of course, it's a weekday. The school holidays are finished. The Jubilee's over, thankfully. Of course, this has been used for TV shooting many times over the years, of course. And quite rightly so as well, because it gives an authentic flavour of British medievalism, even though it's an arts and craft item, really. I had a big arts and crafts moment about 25 years ago, and I read a huge biography of Morris by Fiona McCarthy, which is enormous. Last word. I've read lots of Morris's work, of course, and used to know it as a science fiction novel. This is the parlour, and I bet your parlour's not like this, and mine is, of course. The ceiling's very impressive. So I guess what we're seeing here really is a fantasy version of medievalism, with all the extremes of Arthurian romance and the pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood expressed in interior decor and architecture. But, you know, it's quite dark in here, as you can see, but that adds to the whole atmosphere. Very, very beautiful. And I think I might have already said that Marcus never spent much time here. His wife spent a bit more, and she had a sort of special bedroom here. But yes, as you see, it's fantastic. So if you like the arts and crafts movement, if you like history, it's absolutely fantastic place to visit. Just give you some of the detail, because there's a huge amount of detail. I mean, you can spend hours just looking. If you look at these, every single one is different. Testament to the genius of the arts and crafts movement. And you've got all this fantastic tableau, all these different animals, native animals, exotic animals. And there is no doubt massive symbolic meaning in lots of things here. Ascending to the next level. Marvellous. Right. Look at that. Fantastic. I'm just ready for my makeup and my shot now. Look out, Tyrion Lannister. Never mind the king in the north, what about the king in the west? I'm a great believer that the Jungian thing is more and more valid. I think the archetypes, often we create them within our own lifetimes or within a few hundred years, and we draw on them. They're not actually inherent, but we draw on them and we build narratives and we believe they come from ourselves when they actually come from outside of the cultural conditions we've created, which is interesting. It doesn't make them any less authentic, I think. We're even higher now, so we'll do the guard patrol around this level, keeping a sharp eye out for interlopers. We're ready to assail these hallowed walls. Let's just take a little look. No sign of any barbarian invaders, or even English ones for that matter. There's a small amount of nationalism creeping in there. You forgive that. Fantastic detailing outside as well as in. Right, we're at the very top of the tower now, and I see these wonderful stained glass exhibits of saints, which again is why we need Janina Ramirez, because she would know all about this, as her first book is about saints and their lives. Fantastic. Of course, Arthurian legends increasingly became rewritten as Christian narratives, as we know. Marvellous. You've got this seating area, doubtless for contemplation of the saints. Angels as well, apparently. Fantastic stuff. So this is recent work. This just goes to show that the spirit of arts and crafts is still alive, if slightly less ornate up here. I grew up just a few miles from here, so I used to come regularly. My dad, who is departed now, came here for a tea party when he was a little boy. He won some sort of competition or something. I could never get the details out of him because he was very young. So that would have been in the 1940s. Yeah, so apparently he came here for some sort of tea party, so which he'd won some prize or something. But he was quite vague on it. So. Yeah, it's still really beautiful, isn't it? Yes. Okay, so me and Mark are walking along the Taff Trail now from Tongwynlys to Nantgarw, and I think this part of the trail must be the railway line that ran from Caerphilly down to Nantgarw, where it probably would have intersected with the line there. I'm just trying to remember, because this is all ancient railway history from before my time. So the railway would have come down from Pontypridd via Groeswen Halt, where we're headed, where I was born, down to Nantgarw and then across here. And there would have been a line from Caerphilly. The line from Caerphilly came down and went across the valley. When I showed you that bit with those huge pillars, the line there went across to Barry. So went to Barry Island, which those of you who have watched Gavin and Stacey will know Barry Island. Used to go there as a kid, and I can remember getting the train over that viaduct, which is long gone, which was supported by those pillars. So yeah, so I think this is part of the railway line as well. By the side of the Taff Trail here, just before Nantgarw, there's this very impressive gorge and a fallen tree. It's all very H.P. Lovecraft, Robert Holdstock, Mythago Wood, folk horror, you know, let's invoke all that stuff. Yeah, so this must have been the railway line. So I'd have come along here on the train when I was a kid. I can't see where else it would have been, because there's no other evidence of a railway line, so it would have been along here. Let's go underneath this bridge here, which looks like a railway bridge to me. It's made of iron. Yeah, this is definitely a railway bridge rather than a road bridge. And we should be coming up to the area that I know better quite soon, I would say, but fantastic stuff. Nothing like a large pipe festooned with mosses. I don't know why, but there isn't anything like a large pipe festooned with mosses. Okay, so I know exactly where I am now. This is Nantgarw. This is the railway bridge. And this is the part from here on I know really well. There would have been a railway halt here until 1965 when the train finally stopped running. It stopped carrying passengers about 57, 58. So we are really into my stomping grounds now, big time. I haven't been under this bridge for years and years and years. And when I was a kid, you know, none of this path or anything was here. This was all, you know, rough sort of, not cobbles, but the kind of stones that were underneath, you know, railway tracks. That was all still here. So it's very rough underfoot. You couldn't cycle along. And now we've just passed the first cyclist. I know I was complaining about cyclists, but this is, oh, interesting now. The intersection Caerphilly is to our right and Pontypridd is up here. So maybe, no, that can't be the actual bridge. So the actual bridge I'm thinking of is further along. We'll see. Big pipes. A very antediluvian aspect. Okay, this is big on mythic resonance for me now because we are actually finally approaching the part which I know really well, or knew really well, when I was a child. And it's just so changed, you know, and there was, as I say, you couldn't walk along here. There was no footpath like this. We met very few cyclists and nice dog walkers. And just coming up to the Nantgarw bridge where the Nantgarw halt was. I would walk in the opposite direction from my house down as far as here when I was a kid. And as I say, there was the railway halt for Nantgarw here. The train ran up from Pontypridd, Groeswen, Groeswen Halt, Nantgarw, and up to Caerphilly and then Newport. The thing that strikes me whenever I come back is a lot of the houses around here have been done up and everything that way is a lot more utopian. But all these areas are really overgrown. This used to be really open, and of course you couldn't run a train along here now because it's not open enough. But the vegetation is really encroached, so even though the path has been laid down and made accessible, nature is reclaiming what was the railway line. And it's really beautiful, but I do remember things being very open. You could see the sky, and I do prefer that. I do think we need some management of the forestry aspects here to sort of let the sky in. It's very strange for me to see this bench here, and there's another one behind me, and this field, as I say, everything's overgrown compared to when I was a kid. Ahead of you now, until I was well into my teens, was the Nantgarw colliery. Coal mine, and it connected underneath the mountain to Singennydd pit, and my grandfather worked in both. My maternal grandfather from Caerphilly died in the mid-70s of pneumoconiosis, a disease associated with coal mining, coal dust on the lungs. And this vista here, there used to be a train of coal buckets suspended that would bring slag from the mine up over the road. There's a road down there, you can't see it, we'll walk down it later on, and they would tip out at the slag heap at the top. There's a similar thing if you ever see Get Carter, the climax of Get Carter, which takes place on top of a slag heap. It's a similar sort of construction to that. And over the road there was like a net made of wire that would catch bits of coal and slag sort of dropping off, and that's gone. So it's changed so much, you know, but everything's so green and verdant. And it was green and verdant before, but the industry is gone. I can't get over this. I mean, this gate here, and this, as you see, also very verdant. When I was a child, this was completely open. There's a farm up there to the right, and there's the rest of the Taff Trail, and this was like completely open. You can't see anything. It's amazing how much it's grown. But then, you know, I left home in 1985, so it's a very long time ago. but it's still astonishing to me to see how much it's grown. And it's very beautiful, but you don't get the vistas. Vista literally means view between trees, because now the trees have grown so much that you can't see the views anymore. So when I come across a particular nook I know really well, it's sort of revelation in reverse. It's concealment of nostalgia rather than revelation. And this is the sort of final approach to Groeswen Halt now. And again, I know I'm going on about this, but it's so overgrown and I can't see the landmarks that I knew as a kid. I know they're there, the houses, the fields, the literal landmarks, they're not there. But what's here is very, very beautiful. So, you know, it's for me, it's about learning to appreciate what's there. Right, okay, here's one of those landmarks. That field, that little field in front of us, I have a memory about when I'm 3-year-old, my father's driving a tractor through that field, ploughing a furrow for us to put a polythene water pipe from the farm that's off to the left, which you can't see where the well was, down to our house. So we had running water in the house. For the first time, we had one tap in the kitchen, and that was our only tap, and there was one outside. And that's one of my earliest memories of seeing my father on a tractor in that field. The field beyond it goes up to Mynydd Mayo, and beyond that is Mynydd Eglwysillyn. These horsetails are a memory because, as I've probably already said many times, when I was a child, this was all waterlogged, and there were lots of amphibian life down here, pond life. And the horsetail, of course, goes back to the Carboniferous and Devonian periods, a real ancient sort of plant family. So this is sort of taking me back to those days of trudging down on my wellies and finding frogs and toads and newts and all sorts of pond life down here. Happy days. Okay, nearly at the turning point of the walk now. We're approaching Groeswen Halt, and it's been fantastic to walk along here. And apart from my perpetual continued shock, and it was boring about things being sort of overgrown, but you know, this is it, this is great, this is where it all happened. Or didn't happen, more like, you know, as I say, to come down here, as you see there's some water here and lots of duckweed, and this whole area was sort of full of water and pond water life. And that's because underneath the bridge, which you'll see coming up now, before the bridge was here, and of course that was built when this railway cutting was cut way back in the 19th century, there was a coal level underneath the bridges. I'll just show you, this picnic table wasn't here when I was a child, it's fairly recent. And this spot here you're seeing is where the halt was. You would get on the train here, if you were travelling to Caerphilly from Pontypridd, which is ahead of us. And when I was small, there were the remnants of a water tower for the steam trains up there. And that wall there is part of the structure. And here's the bridge. And the bridge is overgrown. When I was a child, there was none of this growing out of it. You could see, and you had an amazing view right the way down towards Nantgarw. And this path here, which we're going to go up in a minute, the halt on the other side. So if you came from Caerphilly to Pontypridd, you'd get off here and walk up that path there. But we're just going to go underneath the bridge to show you a bit more. So yeah, so there was a coal level which preceded the bridge, and when I was about 10-year-old, we were having a new cesspit put in our front garden, and the road, because it was quite deep, it was dug quite deeply, and the road just opened up. There was a huge crack in the road, and the hole that had been built in our front garden filled with water. It was like that for a couple of months, and it was a real worry for my parents and things. And you see here, there's like ferrous colour in the water here, ferrous oxide, iron, and we've sort of always thought that this was obviously a deposit that came up with the coal. And there's the Taff Trail going off to Pontypridd. That pipe to carry excess water was put in probably when I was about 10. So here we are. So I spent a lot of time down here, because it looks a lot smaller as these things do. I'm going to walk up the path to the hamlet, if you can call it that, of Groeswen Halt. At some point we're going to do a video of Groeswen village, which is further up the mountain. Groeswen, of course, means white cross. So the pub at Groeswen village, which is about a mile or so from here, is called the White Cross Inn. And me and the chaps, we had a rather great sort of Saturday afternoon there about a year before the pandemic, and it was really fantastic. We walked from Caerphilly halfway up the mountain to the pub, and it was really great, you know. So and we were hoping to do that a while ago, because we ended up stuck in Cardiff, and we ended up in Cardiff Bay. So that was unexpected but fun. Good score at Trout Mark. Having emerged on the path ahead of you there, that's the road to Upper Boat towards Pontypridd, and my walk home from school looked like this. This is the other direction, down to Nantgarw, down what they call Bunsey Lane, what we used to call Gypsy Lane. I'll give you a 360. And this is Groeswen Halt. And as I say, when I was a child, you could see over the railway bridge, see the view down the former railway line. I was 2 when the trains finally stopped running. I have no memory of them whatsoever. And of course they'd stopped carrying passengers some years before I was born. And this is Crossroads, literally a crossroads. And this is where I was born, number 3 Crossroads. I was born, I'm on the first floor, in the room on the right, the little window there. And the one on the left was my bedroom as a kid and a teenager. So there we are. So this is where it all happened. The road to the right, up to Groeswen village, and the road there, Funambula Road, which goes up to Eglwysillin. And if you want to see what the drive from here up to Eglwysillin is like, it looks like this. I remember that sign going in when I was a kid, because people were always stopping here because and asking which was the way to Eglwysillyn. They couldn't work it out, and my dad would park his car here before we drove it into the garage, which was just over there at the side of the house where there's the wooden fence now. The garage was there, which he built himself. It's gone now. And I spread a large amount of my dad's ashes here a few years ago when he died. And when I was a kid, I would come out here and lean on the gate. Wasn't a lot to see apart from the sheep and what have you. And I would play tennis on my own against this wall when Wimbledon was on. It's my front garden. And as I say, it's also overgrown. It was a lot more open when I was a child. So everything's overgrown. And in that spot there used to be a little shed where Bill the roadman worked. And Bill the roadman was an old guy, and he used to keep the roads clean, and he would trim the hedges and what have you. And he retired probably early 70s, would have been about 72, 73 when I was about 9 or 10. He had a little hut there. And on the bridge itself, which you can't really see here because it's obscured, I remember when a post box was put in, and that felt like a really big thing. And when I was a kid, this wasn't a neat, tidy field. It was an unpleasant field full of anthills. So there you go. So this is Groeswen Halt, Crossroads, and that's where I was born and lived till I was 21 and grew up. We're heading down to Nantgarw. It's going to be a round trip today. So from getting off the train at Taffs Well, walking to Tongwynlys, Castell Coch, and along the Taff Trail to Nantgarw, up here to Groeswen Halt, back down the road now to Nantgarw and then Taffs Well, and then for a few drinks I feel in Cardiff. So that's pretty much it. There's a bit of an insight into the Outlaw Bookseller's background. Right, so there you go. So walking down Gypsy Lane now, and it's strange. Do I feel nostalgic about it all? Well, of course, you know, I grew up here, but it has changed so much, you know, and that's the way things are. You know, I would always say that I would never live up here again. When my partner and I have been up here, the video widow and I've been up here, and we see the odd house for sale, things, oh, this is lovely, but everything's done up and is much nicer than when I was a kid. But it is a lot more overgrown. Though, of course, now you can get your shopping delivered by Sainsbury's. There's still no public transport up here. There never will be. The roads are too narrow, so I don't think I'll be moving back. So this is Outlaw Bookseller with a little out and about walk. Hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.